Hi, I'm Nancy, leadership coach, author, and helping young women to navigate in the workplace and bring their whole self to work every single day. Now, the corporate world is fascinating, and sometimes it feels to me that some people, not everyone of course, leaves themselves at the door and haven't yet learned that the key is actually to bring your whole self to work. Now, I genuinely believe that the majority of people who do show up every single day actually have the best of intentions. They want to do their job really well. They want to connect with others in a very respectful manner. And they want to make things easy for themselves and easy for others. Then there are a few who seem to want to create more issues than what it's worth, more drama than actually sorting things out. Now, why is that? Now, human beings are very complex. We're a tapestry of experiences. Just like our food makes up our body, our experiences are made up of so many things. Experiences that we have led, experiences where we have been led. Now, all these experiences have made us who we are. And yes, not all are our experiences. Some of it comes from our ancestors, our parents, our genes, the way that our brain is wired. And there's so many different things to take in perspective when we finally do show up as how we are. Now, does this mean that we excuse behaviors that harm other people? No, we do not. It just helps to keep in perspective that the way that people behave is more than meets the eye. Now, sometimes when people are mean to us at work, we can take this quite personally. It must be me. There is something wrong with me to make them be mad at me, we might be saying. But it's a bit more complicated than that, I hate to say. We are not that important in our co-workers' life, to make us think that, we have impacted them so greatly. They have their own issues. And what we've done is triggered something in them that have made them react the way that they have. Now, that's their triggers. They're not our triggers. And we also tend to dislike people or behave oddly around people who remind us of ourselves. It's a weird thing to say, yes, but there are tendencies in all of us that we do not like. Then suddenly we meet someone, a mirror in front of us, who has the same tendencies, and we suddenly get out of sorts. Now, I'll make a separate video about that one later on. Today, however, I really want to talk about and touch on some phrases that some people may say at work. And when we hear them, I want you to run. I'm only joking. Just be cautious, be wary. Now, people who say these phrases may not always have our best intentions. Phrase number 1, you don't like it either, do you? Now, be cautious of the word do you, especially if you have not shared that you care about something or not with them. Now, if someone says a leading statement like that, be quite wary. They may simply want you to agree with them. And a leading question subtly is actually guiding you to answer a certain way. And more often than not, leading questions influence others to provide feedback in a manner that aligns with somebody else's values, not aligning with yours. Now, these kind of people, what they're looking for are followers. They may also have their own self-esteem issues that makes them collect people who are cookie-cutter versions of them. So if someone does ask you a leading question, agree if you really do agree with it. And if you're not sure or, you don't agree, then simply say, actually, there might be another reason, or this doesn't resonate with me. Phrase number 2, why do you have to overthink everything? So, someone said something that you don't understand. So you ask a few more questions, fair enough. Then suddenly they start to get irritated and say, why are you overthinking this? Now, this may sound like they have your well-being in mind, but if you're genuinely asking questions and they are really getting agitated by that or ignoring your questions, they're doing this to make you feel agitated or paranoid. Now, they tend to make you doubt your own intuition by constantly planting hints to make you feel anxious and then blaming you for having that anxiety. It's like asking you to feel weird about why you feel the way that you feel. So if somebody does ask you a question, if you're overthinking things, the best way to respond back is usually with a question. So I tend to say things like, what made you say that? Or are you not comfortable talking about it? Phrase number 3. Now, another interesting phrase is, you've misunderstood what I've said. Now, people have misunderstandings and miscommunications all the time at work. We do that in healthy relationships. But it gets unhealthy when someone blatantly does or says something and then turns around and denies it ever happening, or that you have misinterpreted it. Now, the best way to deal with this at work is to say, actually, I haven't misunderstood you. This is what you said. Have you changed your mind? Now, the only way to deal with gaslighting, because that's what this is to confront it at work. Phrase number 4. I just absolutely love you and have never met anyone like you before. We are just meant to be. Now, this sounds like a beginning of a beautiful relationship, but be wary, especially if you hear this within the first few days of working there or weeks of someone just meeting you. Yes, there are people out there who, put their heart on their sleeves, but there's also an indication of hooking you in, and then they start to show you their true selves. It starts beautiful and over the top, but it won't be long before the put downs and the gaslighting actually starts. So the best way to deal with this kind of behavior is simply not to buy into it. Just smile and move on with the issue at hand. Don't enter into any sort of conversations. Now, because that's exactly what they want you to do. Phrase number 5. God, I do everything around here. Yes, we all want credit for the work that we have done. It's important to feel valued for what we do. But, there are some people out there, though, who will make sure that they find a way to get credit for the work that they have not done, or may even go out of their way to make sure that somebody else doesn't get credit either. Now, unfortunately, I've met a couple of people like these. And once I had someone tell the new boss that they had done some trend modeling, even though I was the one who did it. Now, I found out because the boss was actually talking to me about it and telling me to talk to this person about the work that they had done. Now, I didn't stay quiet. I made sure that she knew that that was my work. Now, why did I do that? There are times when things don't matter, when it's just accidental or it's simply a misunderstanding. But when it's done manipulatively, you just can't keep quiet. Phrase 6. Oh, I'm only kidding. Really? I don't think so. For goodness sake, how condescending is that? Now, watch out for these kinds of phrases at work. This is not how professionals talk. And if they were respectful and well-meaning, they wouldn't say it anyway. Now, this flippant remarks, even in emails where your co-workers add a LOL, for example, in their replies to you, is a way of stating their thoughts about the topic, but passing it off as a joke, so they don't get in trouble. So, for example, you've done a piece of work and someone might say, oh yeah, that's just a copy of last year's work. Then laugh and say, oh, I'm only kidding. Now, this is an immature, silly remark. And the best way to deal with it is simply to say, oh, what do you mean by that? Or if it was just a joke, they may say, look, it was just a joke. And then you need to follow it up with, well, look, I don't get it. Or I don't find that very funny. By ignoring it, what you're doing is sweeping it under the carpet. And it definitely won't be the last time that will happen again. So face up to it so that they definitely know not to mess around with you next time. Phase number 7. Now this one. Oh, look, you're just a favorite. LOL. Now, this might seem like an off-cuff comment, but pay attention. This can give you a small indication that there is tension between that person's relationship with whoever they might be talking about. Now, don't fret about it and don't get caught up in the conversation. That's their issue, and it's something that they need to deal with. It's not about you. It's a real childlike comment to make. Now, I'm sure there are some children out there who are actually more respectful than that. Now, I've met people who do not have a very good relationship with others and will work through those emotions by saying things that are odd to you. But, their issue is actually not with you, it's with the other person. So one situation that I can remember is when someone literally yelled at me. And it was so obvious that their anger was not at me. It was actually with the boss with whom that they actually had the issue with. I was somebody simply that got in the way, that actually gets along well with the boss, and they just didn't click. So hearing that phrase, oh, look, you're just the favorite, it's a small indication that they have their own problems. Don't ignore that comment. What you can say is, well, I don't see it that way. And simply reiterate what you have done. For example, I don't see it that way. I just finished the report on time. And just don't get consumed in that conversation. Those conversations can turn into gossip and can turn into passive-aggressive relationships very quickly. Phrase number 8. Oh, look, only I know how to do this. Now, there is a difference here. There are some people whose job it is to do something specific and they genuinely only have access. Nobody else does. That's different. What I'm talking about here is when you're in a team and it is something that anyone can do. You might also need to learn this, as it might actually make your own job a lot easier. But this particular person, they just won't give you access or doesn't give you the opportunity to do something or try something new. Now, take note of this and work carefully around this issue. First of all, ask yourself, is it paramount that you need access, or you can just delegate the task to them? It might actually make your job easier. It's just something to think about before you take action. Yes, they have their own deceptive and distrusting issues. You can leave them be and simply delegate, or you can take it on. The choice really depends on the situation and the kind of work that it is. Now, people like that don't usually like to necessarily be the center of attention. But what they do like doing is pulling the strings, just like a puppeteer. So your job is to decide. You don't have to play the game of begging and pleading, please do this for me, etc., etc. You can simply task them jobs to do, just like any leader would. And, permission isn't given, or if they're being unhelpful to you. Or you can ask your manager to have a conversation with them. Now, these kind of people will not respond to you. They actually need to be somebody with a higher authority. Phrase number 9, it's just not perfect. Now, perfection is seriously a killer in my opinion. Perfection is something that you are never going to reach because you always find better ways to do something as the day goes by. So it's a vicious circle. When you hear words like, it's not perfect, it's a signal that they have their own version of perfection. It may not be the company's version or other people's version, it's their version. And the reality is that you are never going to meet it. The best person to do that job is actually them. So what do? Well, if it's your boss who says this, get your notepad out and take good notes. Now, ask them exactly what they would like and how they would like it. Now, it doesn't mean that you bow down and take orders. It's also good to get the overall objective and keep going back to that. So this means that you can check in and say, isn't that going over and beyond to what the objective is? Now, their answer will give you a good insight of what kind of people they are. So when someone says it's not perfect, know that you're dealing with someone where something is just never good enough. Now, the last phrase to be mindful of is, we do this way, even though they do it another way. Or whatever the phrase is in relation to we and them. I mean, geez, if I had $1 every time I heard that in my corporate world, I seriously think that people forget that the business pays their salary, not their department boss. It comes out of one big account, and everyone there is paid the same way. So there is no, I, we, and them. It's us, it's all together. Just because they're different departments doesn't mean that there are different businesses. It's one business with different sliced up sections. So whenever you hear the word, it's us and it's them, take note. Now, these people have a competitive nature and one of gossip. I can guarantee you that. Now, the best way that you can reply to this, well, hang out with other parts of the business. I mean, why talk when you can show others how it's actually done? Well, that's the phrases that you needed to keep note of. You are all going to get all sorts of people in corporate. There is absolutely nothing to be scared of. People are people with their own insecurities. And unfortunately, some people just haven't learned a way to deal with them. Don't take it personally. Deal with the words and deal with the behaviors, and don't get sucked in. I really hope you enjoyed listening to this video. Feel free to watch any other videos that I have on my channel on all things corporate. I'll see you next time, and have a good one.